episode of Breaking and Adventuring, where we look at the world of the Adams County Sheriff's Office and beyond. So we're going to share the background, stories, and experiences of the men and women of the Adams County Sheriff's Office and the greater law enforcement and public safety community. I'm your host, Commander Adam Sherman. Today we're visiting with Chief Inspector Jerry Means. And Jerry is with the Adams County Fire Rescue. And we're going to discuss your career, what's like in fire service, and that dual role that you have with the Sheriff's Office and with Adams County Fire. Are you ready?
Great.
All right.
I'm ready.
So just a little bit about your background, your career, how long you've been with Adams County Fire Rescue.
Sure. Well, it started years and years ago. I was born in California. And no, we don't need to go back there.
Yeah.
Kidding. But I came to Denver after graduating high school in Canyon City. So I'd lived down south my whole life, and I got into the fire service. Did about 14 years in the fire service, paid, and worked my way up to captain, and then was hired by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. And I worked for CBI in Denver as an agent. I did fire investigations throughout the state of Colorado, and worked one of 3 canines that I worked over my career. I seem to always have a dog, throughout my entire career. 3 dogs throughout their working life. And when I retired from the state, I transitioned over to Adams County Fire Rescue. Been there ever since. Been there since 2019.
Okay. Nice. Got it right before COVID.
Yeah, I retired from the state on a Friday, and I had Saturday and Sunday to be retired, and then I went back to work on Monday.
There you go.
So here we go.
I kept the habits. Well, what drew you to a career in fire service, and how did you find your way into fire investigation specifically? Was there a certain draw or interest there?
Yeah, when I was initially in the fire service, we had an opening in fire investigations, and we didn't really have anybody to fill that capacity. I was operating at a captain's level, and so they said, hey, you're in charge of it. And so I started putting myself through school and attending all these different trainings, and I went to the National Fire Academy, the ATF Academy, all these wonderful opportunities to learn, and but just didn't have a lot of practical experience actually doing fires. And so I started working on my days off from the fire service, and I started doing fire investigations, and that morphed into a very full-time, part-time job.
Yeah.
So I traveled around, did fires in Montana, Denver, Metro, Utah, Kansas, you name it. I'd get out from the fire service and fly out and do a fire investigation, come back, and so the experience level really started to increase.
Yeah, and what it sounds like to me too, and this might be for anybody looking to get in that line of work, but you really created a lot of those opportunities for yourself, seeking out the education, just looking for those openings instead of kind of waiting for them to happen to you. You went out and you tackled it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
People are not going to just hand you things. If you're willing to work hard, I think opportunities out there for everyone.
Absolutely. Now, can you walk us through what it means to be both a fire investigator as well as a deputized member of the Sheriff's Office? How does that work for you doing dual roles?
I believe as a fire investigator, and just sticking with the fire science side of things, you limit yourself on the skill set that you need to do this job. Because it's not uncommon to get halfway through an interview with somebody about what happened with a given fire scene, and they become suspect.
Yeah.
And you become to try to, or you start to figure out that this person may have set this fire intentionally. And if you don't have that law enforcement skill set to draw from, you can be in a tough position. And we do a lot of interviews, no different than any detective. You serve yourself best and your case best by asking a lot of questions and then being a good listener. And so, I got the idea to work on the law enforcement side of my career. I initially attended Jefferson County Sheriff's Department as a reserve.
Okay.
And became a post-certified reserve there years and years ago. And I think I've been in law enforcement 35 years.
Wow.
And the fire service for 42.
Okay. So, through both sides, I'm sure, and what it sounds like even with your investigations, you're really diving into the psychology of arsonists and just different behaviors, things to look for, even whether it's, what you're seeing on scene as well as during the interview process. That's fascinating.
Yeah, a lot of those things are produced with forensic evidence and science. That helps us with the fire side of it, but human behavior and figuring out what somebody's thinking and trying to trying to construct your questions, a step ahead and get all the information that's available out are skills that I've learned from seasoned law enforcement officers, people I've had the luxury to get to work with, a seasoned homicide detective and stuff. They can teach you how to talk to people.
Yeah, that mental chess game is fascinating. So what does a typical day look like for you, even if there is such thing as like a typical day, but what does your standard shift look like?
Well, fires are odd. Fires don't occur in the daytime. Fires, people see them. It's a small trash can fire. People put it out with an extinguisher. The fire department never finds out about it. It doesn't become an investigative matter. Fires, for me, happen in the evenings and on weekends and on holidays when people aren't around, and it gets to be a big deal, and it becomes harder and harder to determine where it started and how it started.
Yeah.
And so in saying that, that means my hours are off hours. I don't ever work a regular week shift, although I'm assigned to 410s.
Yeah.
But I'm on call all the time. I've been on call at the fire department ever since I've been here. I was on call with CBI for like 22 straight years. And there was only one of me at CBI. And so it keeps you from having a drinking problem and things like that. I mean, you don't have any time to do anything but work. But I love my work. I love the people I get to work with. And so I count my blessings to get to do this.
Yeah, that's incredible. What are some of the biggest challenges you face when you're investigating a fire scene?
Well, fire's an interesting animal. It creates evidence when it burns, but it also destroys evidence at some point in time. And so walking that thin line of, is this a directional burn pattern, and is it telling me something, or is it just an area that burned longer than the other parts because it didn't get any water put on it in that given area? Those make a fire scene very difficult. Wintertime is coming up, and wintertime is brutal for us because if it's 20 degrees outside and the wind's blowing, it's 15 or 10 inside a house that doesn't have any electricity, no lights, and 4 feet of water in the basement. It makes conditions difficult, and they're very, very dangerous. Anytime you take a stable structure, a house, and then you put it through fire where the drywall's off and the wood walls are partially burned and the weight of the roof is weighing down on all that destruction, these scenes want to collapse, and your gravity would tell you that you want to fall through the floor to the basement.
Yeah.
And because sometimes you don't know how bad the floor is, and so these scenes are notoriously dangerous, and we take our safety very serious. Our fire chief drives home to us that we need to go home safe every day, and we have that environment here at the fire department. We have that environment at the sheriff's department where we want to send people home safely every day, and so we're equipped with monitors to monitor the air that we're breathing, because you can have pockets of hazardous gases and things. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's a little crazy in there sometimes.
So in a general sense, what are some things you look for to determine whether a fire is intentional or accidental?
Well, physical evidence presents itself in a different way. Every scene is different. But the obvious things that would pop to me very fast are separate and uncommunicated areas of origin.
Okay.
So if we have a fire in the garage and then we have a fire in the shed and they're two separate buildings across the property from each other, that's a problem. Fire doesn't typically jump from one area to another without communicating in between. Containers, odd times of the night, blocked exits and entryways would be signs that why is that way?
Gotcha.
And essentially it's as simple as this. What we do is you ask yourself, what's different today than was yesterday? Because yesterday there wasn't a fire. Last week there wasn't a fire. Last month there wasn't a fire. So why is there a fire today? And we do a couple different things. We try to figure out, A, where the fire starts. And we do that based on post-fire travel indicators and intensity burn patterns and fire science. And witness statements. All those things collaborate together to determine where it starts. And then we start evaluating that area and trying to tighten it up as small as we can get it based on directional burn patterns. And then we start going through all the plausible causes.
Yeah.
And that means everything from careless smoking to candles to incense to intentionally open flame applied, things like that.
Yeah. And it sounds like just law enforcement side and with the investigation side, just be naturally curious. Like, that's weird. Why is that this way? Or exactly, why is this day different? And and just keep going through that thought process of like, that's really strange. Yeah.
Exactly. It's I tell people all the time, the younger guys that are getting into this, it's not golf, and none of us are Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Fire investigations is a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
And the more opinions, and it's usually the guy with the least amount of experience that brings the best stuff to the table. They ask those questions that you kind of go, oh yeah, that makes sense. We should answer that. Why is that here? Or why is that not here? And so it involves a lot of open dialogue and developing a hypothesis and testing that hypothesis, whether it be verbally or physically. Will this stuff burn?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah, and just selfishly, I've got a daughter who's now entering college, and it's funny seeing, or at least interesting, that even a lot of college programs are coming into having fire science as its own degree path. And so this is really, just expanding as a discipline and as a career field. So that's incredible. So, and obviously leads to the work yourself and others like you have done the last 40 plus years to really bring the attention to it. So now looking at like the impact of some of the things you've seen, fires have devastating effects on families and businesses. How do you balance the technical investigation side with the human side of your work? I mean, I'm sure as you're coming in and you're just, some things are probably even very gut wrenching as you're going through your investigation. How do you balance that when you finally get to clock out for the day or night?
I take an extreme amount of pride, and we get this from our environment that we work at Adams County Fire. From the chief all the way down to the newest firefighter, and I'm not saying this as a cliche, I mean it and we mean it. We work for our community. Mm-hmm. We go to great lengths to care about people, and I don't think there's a shame, an investigative weakness in showing compassion for human beings. I don't care if it's a homeless guy down on the trail, or if it's I'm not the jury, I'm not the judge. My job is to collect data.
Yeah.
And when you're exposed to people that have lost everything they've worked for their entire lives, and maybe even a family member, if you can't reach a sensitivity with yourself, you're in the wrong job. So I preach that to my other investigator, Ryder, and we work really, really hard on being sensitive to people. I have tons of people on my cell phone that still call me to this day with questions. They haven't had a fire before. They don't know what the insurance company is going to do, and I try to give them advice. Yeah. But we try to make a strong impact immediately when it occurs, and whether that be giving a hug or just stopping and just listening to people. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes investigators make, detectives make, no matter what assignment you have, whether you're homicide or whether you're arson or whether you're whatever, is not being a good listener. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things to be said. Just hush. Yeah. Listen.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point, because sometimes it's what's not being said too that's really important, or not being mentioned.
Absolutely.
But I mean, the main thing that I took away from that is you don't stop being a human just because you put on a uniform or you clock in to do your job. I mean, we're still we're humans. We're all part of the community together, and I experienced that myself. Was activated during the Marshall fires over in Boulder County. So I was, we were blocking off entryway to one of the neighborhoods, and it just broke my heart. But just having family after family, they just wanted to see what may possibly be left of their home, and it was just unsafe. You mentioned the instability of the structures and things. These homes, some of them still had fires burning, right. And we could not let them back. But it was just gut wrenching, as these people probably lost everything they had. So yeah, really, just that human touch is incredible, and it's amazing to hear that you bring that to your investigations.
Well, I agree. Once you stop hurting, do something else. You're at a place where you need to need to self-reflect, and you need to probably go do something else because you're not effective.
Yeah.
It's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry in this job. It's okay to feel pain in this job.
Yeah.
That's a real thing, and again, I don't want that to ever change for me. I don't want to become that callous person.
Yeah.
Been on 2,600 fire investigations. I was on the Marshall fire as well. I assisted Investigator Doug Saba. He was the lead investigator of that massive fire, and I helped him with that, and it was tragic.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine, what those guys that were closer to it, that responded on it, went through.
Yeah.
So,
Well, some of them that I was working alongside potentially lost their own homes, but they're still out there working for their neighbors, for their community. I mean,
unbelievable.
that was a tough one. Now, to flip the switch a little bit on maybe a little lighter
Sure.
side, what are some misconceptions people may have about fire investigation from TV shows or movies or things like that? If you have somebody who's really into like CSI and forensic files and things like that. I mean, are there any, some of the phone calls that people ask certain questions that you can tell you're like, that might be a little bit more Hollywood?
Sure. Well, they make the film makes the job seem very glamorous, and Backdraft comes to mind.
There you go.
Robert De Niro wearing a coat, walking in, lighting things on fire in a fire scene. We don't do that. Rest at ease. We don't come back and set your house on fire. But the unglamorous part of it is the weather plays a big factor in us. It's tough conditions at times, and then it's manual labor. It's a lot of digging. It's reconstruction. If you have a living room that is totally destroyed and the ceiling's now down on the floor and all the furniture's twisted and the fire guys have moved things around to check for victims and do a search of that area, we come in and clean all that up and reconstruct the furniture, because when the fire was burning, all that stuff wasn't in place. And we want to see those burn patterns that are under all that stuff. And so it takes a lot of effort to dig all that debris out and to put it all back together. So
Yeah.
that's the unglamorous part of fire investigations, and it's very dirty work.
Yeah.
You have to be careful. Safety has come a long way, and I think I mentioned we take safety very serious. I want my investigators that work on calls to decon themselves and their equipment, so none of that stuff goes back home to their families, to their pets, any of that type of thing. Myself, I've had cancer 7 times.
Oh, wow.
Since I've been doing this. 48 stitches on temples and 27 on this side, and everywhere you don't have protective gear
Yeah.
and your skin is exposed, there's a lot of weird things that burn in fire scenes. And so lots of hydrocarbons and lots of cyanide gas and phosgene gas and things like that. And so again, you got to take it serious if you're going to go the distance.
Yeah, I've never seen that on TV. They never talk about that. All right.
They don't.
So you mentioned some of the relationships you've built. How do you work with other agencies, whether it's local police, whether it's insurance companies, federal partners, when a case requires it? What does that look like?
Well, we do that a lot here. I think I want to say this right. I wasn't well known, but a lot of people knew me, not because I was special or the best at this or that, but I had a very visible job at CBI where I worked with all different agencies every single day. And I got to develop a ton of relationships throughout the state. And right now, Westminster Fire, North Metro, Thornton, Brighton, we all work together as a team, Federal Heights, and we're the north area, if you will.
Yeah.
And so we go and assist them, and they come and assist us often. Again, it's that we're not Tiger Woods, mentality. You work it as a team. Everybody, I just had the whole group down on a fire a week ago, a big fire, big house fire. And I got 100% cooperation from everybody from the sheriff's department, sending detectives and people to walk around and canvass the neighborhood, to every fire department in the north area sent a fire investigator. And so one team, one fight.
There you go. That's incredible. That's awesome to hear. So now looking back at some of your career moments, without naming any names, you don't have to out anybody. But is there a case that stands out in your memory that's especially impactful or maybe even unusual that you're like, oh, wow?
I think after all these years, 42 years and 2,600 fires, there are a number of cases that take you back to a certain moment, and good, bad, and different. You learn from them. Hopefully you take something away that makes you a little better. But worked everything from, when I was at CBI, I was the fire investigator for the state of Colorado, and I worked at K-9. And I also did cold case homicides and officer-involved shootings. And any of those take me back to a dark place. Anytime one of our heroes loses their life trying to save other people's lives, if that doesn't impact you, shame.
Yeah.
Shame on you. Columbine High School. I think when I was at CBI, I responded on 3 different high school shootings. Why?
Yeah.
Why are people killing our high school kids? It doesn't make any sense to me. And so that's the difficult part, trying to make sense out of things that honestly don't make sense and will never. You know, those are the ones that take you right back to a place.
Yeah, and it sounds like, and I'm just assuming, but I know for me on some of my cases, it made me work and gave me that drive a little bit more to where I'm, I don't want this to keep happening. So whatever I could do personally to put into a case or, wider, purpose really kept that drive alive in me.
Agreed.
So what's a surprising thing you've discovered in or an unusual thing you've discovered in a fire investigation?
I think the most surprising thing I've had over the years is the response from dogs. I worked dog on a lot of fires, 3 different dogs, and they never cease to amaze me. The last dog I worked on, the last fire that he worked, and he's since passed away, Riley, but gave me goosebumps when he did what he was supposed to do. And lots of funny stories with the dogs, but also I always tell people they have unlimited potential. Every dog at your house, every dog that you see working, they have unlimited potential. I don't think we have a clue what they can do for us.
Yeah.
They're operating on a whole nother level. There's dogs that sniff cancer now.
Oh, wow.
There's dogs that obviously find lost kids, catch bad guys, sniff out fires.
Yeah.
So obviously a strong dog person.
Yeah.
Got lots of history with dogs.
So they could do more than just sniff treats.
That's exactly right.
So is there something, what's like a strange item that survived a fire almost intact that probably shouldn't have? Did you ever come across anything? You're like, wow, how did that survive?
One story comes to mind. Went out east, did a huge fire at a lumber yard. And the entire building's burned down. It's a lumber yard. It's got lots of fuel, meaning the lumber and all the contents. And that place was burnt to the ground. We like to say, when you're talking to the volunteer firefighters that are there, kind of feeling bad because it's so much damage.
Yeah.
And they're all hanging their head low. And I always tell them, well, hey, look at it like this. It's easy to photograph. First floor, second floor, roof. You don't have to run around a lot. And but I look at this lumber yard, and one thing just stands out, and it's a bucket. It's a plastic bucket that's sitting right in the center of the scene. And I mean, the scene is charred.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how in God's name did that bucket survive? Nobody's walked in there. Nobody placed it in there.
Yeah.
And so finally, it just really played on you for a while. But the very corner of the building, 50, 60 feet from that bucket, was a little piece of the roof left. And there was a round pattern on that piece of roof. And the fire had occurred, burned the whole building down, huge flames. And the outside walls just stayed intact. That little bucket just sat there and had a front row seat to this fire. And it didn't melt. And then all of a sudden the wall, once the fire's died down and water's been put on it, the wall just slightly collapses inward, and that bucket comes tumbling off and lands right in the middle of the debris, just unburned.
There you go.
So there's a reason for everything.
Yeah, the little bucket that could.
That's right.
So you mentioned, or we've talked about your dual roles. Now, it's fairly common knowledge in public safety world that there's this love-hate family relationship with police and fire. So any of your fellow law enforcement or even fire people kind of treat you different or kind of razz you a little bit about being kind of dual purpose?
I have great relationships, great friendships, lifelong friendships in both groups. And I really believe, although I've heard that many times, love-hate relationship, it's a love-love relationship. I cherish getting to see the road deputies out on these fire calls. They're the first ones there. They have all this great information, and we've become very good friends. And of course, I have a ton of friends in the fire service. I love this place that I work at. I cannot sit here right now, and I would never throw a name out there, but I can't sit here right now and say one single person that I don't really, really care for.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been that way at different workplaces.
Yeah. No, I think it's funny. In my experience, it's been like that sibling rivalry kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely, but don't mess with the family. Like we definitely protect each other.
I work with detectives a lot over at Adams County SO, and they have different areas of expertise. And every single one of them, I walk in the substation over there, and I get treated like I work there every single day. We go to the range, we quarrel with each other, and I love every single one of them. They're amazing people. When they're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
When they hurt, I hurt. We have one detective that's assigned to us. His primary job is fires, and so that's Jenkins. And I love Jinx. He's a classic guy.
Yeah.
And I've known him for a long, long time. So it obviously brings a smile to my face even to just think about him. Fabulous.
So you mentioned doing some of these interviews. What's like the funniest excuse you've gotten from somebody trying to explain how a fire started? Like I think about like the movie, was it Orange County, where he's like, she was like, you better not. And he's like, she said electrical. Oh yeah, it was totally electrical fire. Like, so I didn't know if they're like, whether it's an interview on scene where somebody just came like some completely absurd story of how this fire may have occurred.
Well, no different than law enforcement, where some guy says, they pull dope out of his pocket and he says, these aren't my pants.
Yeah, these aren't even mine.
Okay, you're wearing them. Same type of thing. We get people that have odd answers that don't make any sense, but for the most part, people aren't experienced about answering questions about fires. Because it's very rare to have a fire in your lifetime, and I hope nobody here has. But you should go your whole lifetime without having a significant fire in your house or on your property or in your car. And then when somebody's had 2 or 3, that's a red flag. That's not a red flag. That's a red flag. We got to ask why. But
that's funny. Well, speaking of that, like, what's a simple thing somebody could do that could save their home or their life from a fire? So you mentioned, hopefully nobody really has to experience this, but just a simple tip or something you may have for somebody.
A simple tip would be pay attention. That's all. Don't get so caught up in your world or your phone or your anything where you're not paying attention every day to what's around you. Whether that you're in the supermarket, and that can protect you from not only fire but from somebody that doesn't have your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And be conscious of your surroundings. I said earlier, one of the things an investigator does is walk in and go, what's different? What's different today? How come this fire happened? It's no different. Walk in your house, and if something doesn't smell right, if there's a haze, there's a reason for that haze. There's a reason for that odor. Don't hesitate to ask for help. Be investigative yourself. Try to figure out what's going on. A big common problem that we have right now is lithium-ion batteries. It creates a lot of fire hazard for our community. Lots of calls that we go on are either related semi or directly to lithium-ion batteries. People leave them on the charger indefinitely. They forget about them. Bad idea, guys.
Yeah.
You got to watch it. Pay attention to it. Once that light turns green, says that battery's ready to go, unplug it. Take it out of the charger. And it should be fairly safe for you to use when you need it. But leaving them on the charger is the single worst thing that you can do for these batteries. Disposing of them improperly, throwing them in the trash can. These are not your little D-size batteries in the old days that don't produce much power. These things can catch things on fire, and they do.
Yeah. So you heard it here first. Don't set it and forget it. Pay attention.
Exactly right.
So going back to your career a little bit, so if we could just pull up in a DeLorean and we can go back 40 years and you could talk to a younger version of yourself, what's a piece of advice you would give yourself about starting your career?
I don't know that I have a single thing that I count my blessings to get to have done what I've done. I mean, it's been a blessed career. I've received a ton of support from my family to do this because it's taken time away from them.
Yeah.
And I have a daughter that's in the fire service. Super proud. But she used to play softball, competitive fast pitch softball, and I lived for it. It was so fun. We'd travel all over the country, and she'd play softball. And I would make it a point to not miss a game. And I was on a schedule that we talked about that was all over the place, where I was driving to Cortez. And I would drive all night sometimes to get back to watch her play softball. I was probably about half awake, half asleep, I don't know.
But you're there.
But no, it's been an incredible career. You know, I reached a point where I was so thankful for getting to work these dogs. Mm-hmm. And one of my dogs had passed away, and I just felt like I should do something to honor these dogs. And arson dogs, fire dogs, did not have a monument. They didn't have any recognized place that said, hey, they did this great work. And military dogs did, and police dogs did, and fire dogs did not. And so I developed a nonprofit called National Fire Dogs. And it took 6 years of my life. I had a hair when I started the thing, and I raised all the money for the nonprofit, and we built a 7-foot tall statue of a bronze firefighter in gear and a dog sitting next to him, and they're looking at each other. And that monument is in Washington, D.C., between the Capitol and the White House.
Awesome.
And it's at Fire Station number 2 in D.C., and it was sanctioned a national monument. It's on the bus route. If you take the tour, you get to see our monument.
That's incredible.
And I put that together. An incredible artist that's also a volunteer fireman up in Windsor, Severance, Austin Weichel, sculpted it and did a fabulous job. So I encourage anybody, if they want to see what it looks like, get online, look up National Fire Dog Monument. And I wrote the plaque for it, got a chance to put my family's name on there. And that's something that I always look back at, because I had the misfortune of losing a daughter. And so my middle daughter, Courtney, passed away, but her name is forever in bronze, because I had the vision, I guess, to put her name on there with the rest of my family. And so that's a wonderful thing. I want to say, like 2 or 3 years ago, it was in a contest with the Washington Post, and the monument was, and we thought, what a nice honor. Well, it ends up winning.
Wow.
It's the most popular monument in Washington, D.C. Beat out the Lincoln
That's
Memorial,
incredible.
beat out the Washington Monument.
Wow. Okay.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we encourage anybody on your travels, go check it out and throw, tag Adams County Fire Rescue on social media with your pictures. That'd be
Honored
great.
to see it.
That'd be great. Well, with that, so you're the president of the association. How can people find out more about it and even support if they'd like to do that?
Well, I got a couple of them. The National Fire Dog Monument is come and went.
Okay.
It exists, and there's no follow-up needed on it. And everybody in the country, especially this fire department, helped me build that thing.
That's amazing.
But now, since I was successful with one nonprofit, I was goofy enough to start another one.
Nice.
State Farm Insurance Company for 30 years sponsored arson dogs. I got my 3 dogs from a grant from State Farm Insurance Company.
Okay.
And they did that for 30 years. And this last year, they decided to go a different direction with their funds. And we thanked them for the 30 years. Certainly disappointed that we don't have them as a big brother type partner, big sister type partner going forward. However, that left a void. The program was not funded, 0. And so I developed a new nonprofit. It's called International Fire Dogs. And so our little nonprofit, I'm the executive director of it. My investigator here, Ryder, is our secretary. I'm partnered with a guy named Alan. I'm not going to say his name, but because he might not want that. But anyway, we have a fellowship, and we created the board, and then we started running around trying to raise money. One of the handlers did a ton of work on grant writing and put a bunch of information together, and we were just awarded 3 days ago essentially $1 million grant from FEMA.
Okay.
And so we're blessed and thankful for that. So the program is not going to just fall away.
Yeah.
It's not going to be operating at the level we'd like it to and putting on as many dogs in the country and Canada as we'd like, but it's a great start. And for the next 3 years, we're going to work really hard to get that completely funded. And that again is International Fire Dogs. You can go out in line, you can make a donation. $5 helps.
Everything helps. That's
And
amazing.
what you're doing when you do that is, I work for free. My entire board is not on an income at all. We all do it for free for the love of the dogs and the dogs in the program. And so 100% of your donation, whether you're a corporation or whether you're a single person, goes to the program.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely put a link in the description so
Thank
people
you.
can come check it out.
Appreciate that very
So
much.
as we wrap up here, so we talked a lot about the past. I'm curious a little bit about the future and what you're seeing. So how has fire investigation changed with new technology, and where do you see it heading like the next 5 to 10 years?
It changes every year. We're guided in fire investigations by a manual. They call it a guideline, but it's a book called the NFPA 921. And that has gotten thicker and thicker and thicker over the years because our trade is very, very science-based. And there's a lot of very intelligent people that work for the NFPA 921 committee and put a lot of effort and time into it. There's great names in the business. John DeHaan, who's not too long ago passed away, but names like that come to mind that try to hold us to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And once you become stagnant and you just stay where you're at, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so every year it's become more and more challenging and more science-based. You know, the bottom line is all of us investigators want to get it right. We don't want any guesswork in it. If we're going to come into your property and say this happened or that happened, we want to be very accurate with that analysis.
Yeah.
We don't want to guess at it. And there's lots of things that we all did way back in the day that were now scientifically impossible.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't happen. And so shame on us if we don't continue to move forward.
Correct. Yeah. Push the envelope. So just in general, when you meet people and you're out in the community, what do you hope people take away about the role of a fire investigator and the importance of this work just to the greater community?
Well, fire investigation by design is not to run around and find criminals and put them in jail. We would like to discover things that are creating a trend and that are causing fires, and we've had that. We had a fireplace fire in an outdoor type box that was mounted to the side of a house where the flue went through. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we had a fire in there, and no big deal, but you look at it and it was construction caused. They had put the pipe in there too close to the sides of the wall when they built it together. And so within a couple, 3 weeks, we had a second flue fire in that same neighborhood. And so then that constituted going in and having the builder take all those apart and fix them right.
Yeah.
And thank God it was just property damage, which we can all tolerate. We don't like it. It's your property. Who am I to say property damage isn't important? Those are your photographs and your memories, and that's important stuff, but at least it wasn't any loss of life. But we want to work with our prevention bureau. Here at Adams County, there are 2 separate divisions. We have a busy enough area where we do a lot of fire investigations.
Yeah.
I think we did 112 last night. Was our 112 since January 1st.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so that's a lot of fires. Our crew does a great job putting these things out so we can come in and figure them out.
Yeah.
But and then we work with our prevention bureau a lot. You know, whether it's having them help us interpret.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have 3 or 4 in our bureau that are Spanish speaking. And the head of our bureau, our fire prevention bureau, and the deputy fire marshal as well, both encourage us all to work together.
Yeah.
And so we use them a lot in that capacity, but we also provide them information if we start seeing something happening. If we have a juvenile issue where we have kids that are setting fires or a kid that is setting a fire, it's not in the best interest and not allowed actually for a fire investigator to counsel that kid and put them through what we call a juvenile fire setters program.
Mm-hmm.
But prevention provides that tool where they can take a kid, and they have several times here, sit them down and figure out what the root of the problem is, work with the parents, and trend them away from setting fires intentionally.
Yeah.
You know, because we don't want them to get killed. We don't want them to lose their property.
Yeah, and you're looking at not just a single incident, but now you're impacting people, and they don't even know it. That you're, especially like with the fireplace example, you know, you're protecting all these other homes in the neighborhood, and they didn't even realize it till much after. So that's incredible. Well, if someone wanted to become a fire investigator, what advice would you give to them just getting a foot in the door?
The majority of times, most of the fire investigators I know have gone up in the ranks. So it's not something that you typically hire in the public fire service from the outside. And you don't just go shopping for a fire investigator. It happens, but it's not common. Usually a guy starts riding a truck, he's a rookie, and he works his way up, and then you end up getting interested in fire dynamics and analyzing burn patterns and becoming a certified fire investigator. And then you trend over into that. And I can tell you that my investigator that works with me, Ryder, is he's in the police academy right now. He's working on finishing that up. I think he's started his 13th week, and but he came up through the fire service and was online in Idaho, and then we were lucky enough to get him here, and he was in our prevention bureau as an inspector, and so he just got such a well-rounded background. And then so if you follow his lead, and then he became certified as a fire investigator. Still no real experience doing it, but he became certified and just kept working, kept learning.
And he's got that work experience, though, of just being there on those scenes and kind of,
Exactly right. And so then once you become certified, then recognize that you don't know everything.
Yeah.
And the learning really starts.
Yeah.
And you start going on fires and going on fires and going on fires, and pretty soon you're starting to get a knack for it. And then remember that you're just one voice in a team.
Yeah.
And don't ever get that mentality that you know everything and you just walk in and, oh, that's what it is. Somebody's livelihood is at stake here. Take your time, take a deep breath, attention to detail.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great advice for anybody in the public sector, private sector. But learn and cooperate and function as a unit, as a team. That's great advice.
It's huge.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you just sharing your world with us and our followers. So follow us on all the major social media, Fire Adams County Fire Rescue as well, on all your major platforms. And feel free to email us if you have a question, if you have a episode idea, download our app, but you can reach out to us at communityconnections@adamsheriffco.gov. Until next time, thanks.